In this video, I will be talking about the unsolved disappearance of Brandon Swanson. Now, Brandon Swanson was born and raised in Marshall, Minnesota. Brandon graduated high school in 2007, and after he graduated, he decided to study clean and renewable energy, specifically wind turbines. He attended these classes at the Minnesota West Community College in Canby, Minnesota. When classes ended in May of 2008, Brandon stayed in Canby to celebrate with friends. Friends reported seeing Brandon at two different parties where he did consume alcohol, but reportedly not enough to make him look drunk. At around 1 a.m., Brandon got in his Chevy Lumina to drive 30 miles back home to see his parents. Shortly after, Brandon called his parents to tell them he had accidentally driven his car into a ditch. Brandon's parents, Annette and Brian Swanson, got in their pickup truck and drove out to help their son. Although there were a couple dropped calls and long pauses between communication, Brandon stayed on the phone with his parents. He tried signaling his location by flicking his high beams on and off, but his parents couldn't see this. After several minutes, Brandon became restless and told his parents he was walking away from his car to head towards some nearby lights he assumed was the small town of Lind. Brandon asked his parents to wait for him at a local bar he had seen in Lind before. While on the way to the parking lot at around 2:30 a.m., Brandon cut his sentence to exclaim, "Oh sh!" His parents asked him multiple times what's wrong, but the call was silent. Brandon's parents then hung up to call him back, but this time there was no answer, and it was the last time Brandon's parents heard from him again. Annette and Brian reported Brandon missing at 6:30 a.m. to the Lynn police. For some reason, the police response was very nonchalant. Annette Swanson reported an officer saying it was, quote, Brandon's right to be missing. Could you imagine that? Later that morning, the search for Brandon began. When Lynn police couldn't find Brandon, they requested assistance from Sheriff Joel Dahl. The sheriff's office obtained Brandon's cell phone's records, revealing the calls were coming from the area of Taunton just along State Road 68, about 25 miles from Lind. The sheriff's deputies found Brandon's Chevy Lumina in a ditch just off the Lincoln County line. This caused the office of Lincoln County Sheriff Jack Vizecki to join the search. Sheriff Vizecki was able to determine how the Lumina got stuck in the ditch, but other than that, his office came up pretty short and empty-handed. Eventually, the radius of the search widened even further, involving the Yellow Medicine County authorities. Aerial teams were dispatched along with bloodhound search dogs. Since authorities and the dogs pointed to Yellow Medicine River, boats from the Department of Natural Resources searched along the river, where gates were also installed shortly after. Although the search amplified, eventually including the use of horses and all-terrain vehicles, Annette Swanson had told CNN there was nothing to indicate that he was in the river. Brian Swanson also recalled that despite having consumed alcohol, his son didn't seem disoriented or confused during their phone calls. Sheriff Dahl then ruled out a more extensive ground search. Although Dahl discontinued this search, Sheriff Vizecki would cover the search area on foot every day for 30 days. Brandon's parents also left the porch light on every night, presumably till this day, in hopes that Brandon would find his way back home. Searches resumed later that fall when crops in the area had been harvested. When dogs began tracking a scent into a new northwest area, it triggered a continuation of the search that lasted well into 2011. This puts the radius of the search at 122 square miles and still no trace of Brandon. In 2010, the State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension took over the case and set up a tip line. There were over 80 leads reported on the tip line by 2015. By then, the focus shifted to the area of Mud Creek, where, to no surprise, no evidence was found. Due to the lack of initial response, Annette Swanson felt something was still missing in the system. So she and Brian lobbied for changes in the state law. A lot of cases around that time would have also benefited from an investigation starting as soon as the missing adult or child had been reported to the authorities. Annette and Brian realized this, and along with Marty Seifert, a member of the House of Representatives, introduced a bill called Brandon's Law, which changed a few details on a missing person's response. Authorities would now respond right away and communicate with nearby authorities to commence a search immediately when a person's missing report is filed. And their phone records and pings would also be available to the authorities right away. If you like this video, subscribe so you can see more. Comment, tell me what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. And if you did like it and you really enjoyed yourself, I want you to hit that like button. And if you didn't, hit the dislike button. Because I want to know. I want to know who liked it, who didn't like it. But anyways, thank you. I appreciate you for making it this far in the video and listening. Goodbye.